This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's episode 984, and it's the Relevant Podcast here in Orlando because, once again, my trip to Kenya got canceled, as Cameron Strang. Joining me from Loverland, Virginia, it's Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello.
From Dallas, Texas, author, speaker, podcaster, Jamie Ivey.
I live in Austin.
What did I say? Dallas?
Dallas. I do not. Don't ever make me be like I'm from Dallas.
Hold on, let me clean that up.
Austin and Dallas people don't like each other.
Hey, no, we got to keep this in the show.
All right.
Yeah. Let's get the beef going.
No, we like each other.
You know what it was? Is I was just talking to Emily, and she's in Dallas today, and Dallas was on my mind. I'm very sorry.
I love you, Dallas.
For offending you,
Hey, Texas,
Jamie.
Hey, Texas is different. Texas is different, y'all.
And Austin is different than the rest of Texas. I'll tell you that much.
Uh-huh.
We know not to mess with anyone from the state. That's been very well established. But I also like, Jamie, how you said it like a breakup line. Like I think you said, it's we're neighbors, but we just don't like each other. It's like, okay, well, fair enough. I mean, how do you argue with that?
Well, hello from Austin, guys.
And from Nashville, Tennessee, artist, producer, and mogul, Derek Miner.
I'm from Memphis. I lived in Memphis, but man, shout out Memphis. But hey, what's up, y'all?
I have a banner over there. Do you see that? I just hung this pennant, Jamie. It says, it's like a big alligator skull, and it says, "Don't mess with Texas, but don't F with Florida." So,
listen, Texas and Florida are two places that I don't know what the United States would be without Texas. Like, Texas is literally the disgruntled neighbor that's always talking about leaving the neighborhood, but also loves the neighborhood so much. Like, literally, it's the only state that's always like, we'll get up out of here. We'll leave.
And they're always talking about building a bigger middle fence.
Listen, the thing about Texas is if you meet someone who's from Texas, you know they're from Texas in 3 seconds of meeting them. Because they were like, oh, I'm from Texas. Like, I don't even know why. Who says like, oh yeah, I'm from North Dakota? Nobody introduces themselves like that except for us.
Exactly. And then Florida is the crazy uncle from Christmas Vacation. Oh, it's just like, you just like, what's going on right now?
They're the one who just flaunt HOA. They're the neighbor who has like a car that's been on the lawn that hasn't moved in like a month. You know, they painted
the front of the house purple. And they just
there's a lot of decisions made. Like, I have a neighbor like that who there's so many vehicles, including 2 golf carts now that have consumed real estate out in the driveway. A boat, I think there's 2 boats, one in the backyard, but they dragged a fire pit out into the front yard and just put like colorful plastic Adirondacks around them in the front yard. That's like the Florida neighbor right there. Florida. They're just living their best life. They're not asking for trouble. They're not they're not going to back down. But they're just trying to live a good.
And then they're out in their yard with a flashlight at night, and you just like, I don't know what they do at night. Like, why are they out there? Like, what is happening?
Maybe they're looking for alligators or something. I don't know. What are you doing, Cameron?
That's how you do it. You do it with a flashlight.
I just love that Virginia just went straight up creepy too. Virginia's for lovers. Like, and I said this before, but we have the only R-rated flag in the whole country. Ours has a violent murder. It has a dead body and nudity.
No, Virginia, are you serious?
What does that mean, Virginia's for lovers?
I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward.
It's straightforward, okay.
I mean,
okay.
I've never really unpacked it, to be honest with you, Jamie. I don't know the origins. I don't know why we're only looking for lovers.
Lovers.
I guess it's...
But your flag would indicate fighters.
What in the world is going on this flag, dog?
Hey.
It's a person standing on another person holding a... What is the person holding? What is he holding?
A spear next to the bloody
what's
dead
in the
body.
other hand, though? There's a spear in one hand, and then there's something. What is this in the other hand? What's in the right hand? There's two both hands.
Oh, I think it's a one is like a. I think they're both weapons. I'm pretty certain. One is like a sword or something.
One looks like something.
Who knows? And it has And it has a threat on the flag. It says Sic Semper Tyrannis. Thus always the time. Like,
Derek,
it literally.
I just looked at it. Stop with your mess about what's in his other hand.
It does look. I'm just saying, if I saw that on a bathroom wall, I would make assumptions. It looks like he's on
You would think someone drew that with a Sharpie.
What is going on?
Listen, Virginia's for lovers.
Why is he standing on the other guy's chest, Virginia?
No, it's a woman. It's a woman for
Yeah,
one.
that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
So
It's
that's
scandalous.
That's out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said,
Yo,
it's a hard R. We are the only state that has a hard R
That's-
flag.
What is happening right now?
It's not for young children's eyes to be seen.
It's not.
Well, she is Liberty, like she's the Statue of Liberty lady with the robe, I think.
Is she?
And she has conquered tyranny. Sic Semper Tyrannis.
Guys, right now, everyone that's listening to this podcast is about to get into wreck because they're trying to Google what the flag looks like while they're driving. Wait till you get home, people.
Your purity filter may go off.
Nothing at eyes.
Your
I can't get you to
accountability partner is about to text you real quick. Hey, we have some catching up to do. Last time we were on this podcast, I was like, oh, by the way, I'll be out for the next couple of shows because I'll be in Kenya. And then literally like 2 days later, it was a small group of us going to the front lines to see this humanitarian crisis that's happening right now. And two of the people got COVID. So they called me like, hey, trip's off. We're going to go in the fall now. So I'm like, all right, sweet. So Jesse and I just moved some dates around and we went to the NBA Summer League over the weekend and got shouted out on the Bill Simmons podcast the other day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Big moment, guys.
I
Yeah.
feel so happy for y'all.
It was like, Derek, you missed it, man. It was like NBA nerd Comic Con. I mean, it was like all the, every player, dude, this one hotel in particular is where all the teams stay. And so this one night that Jesse and I got on the podcast or mentioned on the podcast was we were just hanging out. I mean, literally like hanging out with NBA royalty, like former players, current players, coaches. We're all just hanging out. We're all just like talking, playing games.
Wait a second. How did you get
bizarre.
there? How did you get there? Did you sneak in
When you
there?
say hanging out, like y'all were in the same restaurant?
No, like in the lobby. I mean, you're in the Vegas, so casino. There's bars, restaurants, casino, and literally just like playing blackjack. Here's these guys. We can sit down with them and just chat them up, play blackjack, whatever, craps, whatever. So like literally NBA royalty everywhere you look, and it's all the coaches, all the front offices, all the former players, all the young players, all the current stars coming out. Like they're all just hanging out at this one hotel, dude.
Guess
and
what
we know which
I was
hotel.
doing?
What were you doing?
I was sanding a windowsill so I could make sure that the kitchen faucet I just installed would fit on the thing, and then I also
Taking care of your family.
was doing drywall and installing lights.
Dude, for me, that's 5 to 6 years worth of projects for me. Like drywall, that's my one project a year. A faucet, that's probably a 2-year deal for me. Sanding a windowsill, I don't know when that's happening. And lights, no, I don't mess with electricity. Derek, I'm very impressed.
Look,
by
I
you.
just did I installed a vanity. I installed a kitchen faucet. We sanded some drywall, got that all hooked up. And I'm feeling pretty good about myself. My wife is like, well, hey, how about you, take our bay window and build a bench? And I'm like, wait, whoa, now I'm putting a little too much dip on your chip. This is YouTube plumbing that you're dealing with.
That's the thing. When you show that you can do something, there's always more
I
to
took
be
an
done.
L, Jamie. I didn't think through that. I should have played like I didn't know.
You got to move those cards slow, or else people are like, "Oh, he's a handyman.
Listen,
Look at there, Derek the handyman."
Jesse figured this out a decade ago.
Listen, I did one bad batch of laundry right after I got married, ruined a couple garments. Guess what? I'm absolved from laundry duty for the rest of my adult
you know what?
life.
It works for me too. I'm a terrible cook. And early in our marriage, Aaron was like, he didn't say it meanly, but he's like, I think I could do better. And so guess who cooks all of our meals? Not me.
Dang, Jamie, you can't cook, Jamie.
Yeah, just find a way to mess it up.
I can't cook. I mean, Aaron travels, so obviously I have to feed our children. You know, I can make I have 3 meals I can make, but Aaron does everything.
What's the 3?
I make this sausage thing with green beans and potatoes and then some spaghetti. And then, I can make like some rice But I don't cook meat either. I'm scared of meat. This is just
scared of
you're
meat?
getting into my life. Yeah.
Why?
I'm scared I'm going to undercook it and kill everybody. So this is why I don't make it.
I got you.
Jamie.
I got you.
Jamie, but you narrowed down your primary items to rice and spaghetti.
I'm carving up these
It's
kids.
all good. It's all good.
I'm telling you, I can't do it.
We all got our weaknesses. You know what I'm saying? That's your kryptonite. It's all good. You slaying everything else.
Well, I'm glad to be with you guys. We have a great show coming up. Michael Cera, you may know him, Arrested Development. What is he? Michael Bluth? Was that his name? No, George Michael.
George Michael.
I know him from all of those coming of age movies we watched growing up.
Yeah, he's in Juno.
Yeah, exactly. Michael Cera is joining us, and George Takei is joining him. We have a double header today. They are both, they're on a new movie together, and Tyler talks to both of them, so that's coming up. Just heavy hitters. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
We also have your feedback at the end of the show, but stay tuned right now. Up next, it's Relevant Buzz.
And if you ever feel down, let go. Maybe it's the things that you still have a hold of. It's never gonna be right. I know you wanna hold tight. And I always could see your face. You're hiding the emotion that they put into place. It's never gonna seem right. I'm holding on so tight. We are lost. Are we gonna try again? I feel so off lately.
You're listening to Daywave. The song is Where Do You Go? Well, today's show is brought to you by He Gets Us, a national campaign bringing the story of Jesus to every neighborhood. Jesus can feel distant and far off for many who are skeptical of the Christian faith. They may think, well, Jesus lived in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. How could he possibly understand my struggles today? But the Bible gives us so many examples of Jesus facing much of what we're experiencing now. He dealt with anxiety, divisive politics, loneliness, and so much more. He Gets Us is helping those who are skeptical relate to Jesus by telling his story on national media through the lens of 2022. In just the first few months, the campaign has reached more than 150 million people just through social media and broadcast networks. To learn more about He Gets Us, visit HeGetsUsPartners.com and check it out for yourself at HeGetsUs.com. Great stuff. Okay, it's time for
Relevant Buzz.
Please welcome to the show Relevant senior editor and Parisian correspondent, Tyler Huckabee. Hey, Tyler.
Hey, everybody.
What's going on this week?
So the first thing I wanted to talk about is I put one of my favorite hats to wear on Relevant Buzz is Mythbuster. And there's a trend going on.
I thought you were going to say pork pie. He usually does relevant.
Fedora.
No.
He usually does.
Over here, it's the beret.
Relevant
it's the little
Buzz.
black beret with the little, or a big chef's hat with a mouse underneath it.
Because usually when Tyler does Relevant Buzz, it's with like a fedora with a little note card jammed in the bill that says press on it.
Now see here, sir. All right. No, Mythbuster. I love doing the myth busting, and this is a trend that's been going around that you guys might have seen that I wanted to debunk, to bring some expert witness in here to debunk. Tell me if you guys have seen any of these stories, and there's been a few of them, of sometimes it's law enforcement officials, sometimes just regular people who say they were exposed skin to skin contact with something that had fentanyl on it, and had some sort of like they overdosed because of that. They either fainted or they'd be taken to the hospital. They had some sort of dizzy spell, and they needed to be put in a hospital for a few hours after that. And then they come out with a warning about handling these. Has anybody seen this? Are you aware of this trend? This sort of thing that goes on?
I saw a video of like a police officer that seemed to have some sort of contact with what was presumed to be some kind of fentanyl, and immediately had some violent reaction on video.
It happened in San Diego a couple of months ago. It happened there in Orlando, Florida. 4 police officers, while searching a car that they suspected to have drugs in it, said they touched something, and they immediately started passing out and had to be taken to the hospital. It happened in my usual home state of Nashville, Tennessee, where a regular woman picked $1 up off the ground last week And after her husband, who is a police officer, told her she needed to be careful because sometimes drug dealers will lace dollar bills with fentanyl, and she started to feel lightheaded, started to feel very faint, had to be taken to the emergency room where she was at for 3 or 4 hours until she was released again. Now, this is getting pretty pop, and it's starting to get into one of those like panics that you hear about sometimes, like the knockout game a few years ago or something like that, where you start seeing a lot of these stories. But the facts just really don't back this up. According to multiple medical experts, you just really can't get any sort of contact high from these drugs. It's not going to go through your skin and have any sort of effect on you. This is according to multiple people, including Dr. David Edwards at Vanderbilt said, ingesting something is a different story than touching something. Your skin is a barrier. It will protect you. You won't just randomly overdose from just any medicine you are touching for a short period of time. Same thing, a doctor, John Hopkins, said the risks of exposure through the skin are incredibly, incredibly small. He said he supposes it's theoretically possible, but the risk is quite low. And the reason this is these are just kind of stories that get passed around and they become kind of a stranger danger thing about be careful, you never know what might have drugs on it. But this is becoming sort of a problem because fentanyl, as we're aware, is a very big deal in the US. It is a very serious drug that does hurt a lot of people. It is one of the deadliest substances in the US. But if you come across somebody who is suffering from an actual drug overdose, the last thing we want people to be concerned about is whether or not they can touch this person and offer them aid or help them because they're worried of getting their own high from it. So what experts think is probably happening here is actually just some sort of panic attack or anxiety issue. You hear about these stories. You hear that this thing is dangerous. If you're a law enforcement official, maybe you've seen people who've suffered from an overdose. And that starts to make you feel panicky, lightheaded, a little bit dizzy. And that's fine. Anxiety attacks do happen. That doesn't mean you're a bad person for having an anxiety attack, but we do need to be aware of the actual issues around this substance and not give in to misinformation.
Big facts.
Tyler, this is good news because when we're hearing about the story of a lady picking up a dollar bill on the street, that to me went into my brain as another thing I have to fear is touching a dollar bill on the street.
I forget how scared you are, Jamie. You're scared of undercooking meat.
I have a long list of fears. Yeah. Yes.
I forgot about that.
Thank you for clearing this up for me. Now I can scratch that off of my list. I don't have to think about it anymore.
Are you a germaphobe?
No, I'm not a germaphobe. I'm like, I'm an Enneagram 6. Like I'm like worst case scenario. I know where all the exits are, all the things.
Okay.
So now you're saying if we see money on the street, pick it up freely.
Absolutely.
Now you have taken that burden off of me, Tyler. Now I don't have to fear death from a $20 bill on the street.
One doctor they interviewed was like, if you see a dollar bill that is clearly coated in white powder, then yes, that is probably worth
leave it alone.
You should don't touch that one.
Yes.
But it will be very obvious in most cases if this is a dollar bill that has some sort of dangerous substance on it. So probably that's something to be aware of. I've never seen a dollar just laying near a McDonald's that is covered in cocaine. But if you do, definitely don't touch that dollar bill. Yes,
it's a good idea.
God, that's just good life advice.
that's just good life advice. That goes here in Paris too. They tell people that all the time, whether it's the dollar bill or the euro. Just stay away from drugs. I don't know what to tell you. That's an easy one.
but it does seem like one of those debunkable things. It's like the, razor blades and apples at Halloween. I think the easiest way to debunk that one, because that was the big panic back in the day and why trick-or-treating
was very
so
worried
scary.
about it.
I'm going through all my kids' candy. Yep, when they're little.
I'm worried about who's handing out apples on Halloween. I don't know the price of apples, but I can't imagine that's got to be an expensive Halloween. A big trash bag full of apples. Every kid gets an apple, and I feel like no one's eating apples Halloween night, and I think I would know. It'd be pretty evident that there's a razor blade jammed in there. Like it just seems like a lot of work for like a sick, weird, thing to do.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting about some of these stories is you see them reported so credulously. Like in the case of this woman in Nashville, the reporter just kind of took her word for it. They're like, woman picked up a dollar and says it's what caused her to faint and go to the hospital. And that's the headline. If you read all the way to the bottom of it, then you do see this doctor from Vanderbilt saying that's not what happened. You also see that her toxology report came back negative, and you see that there was no trace of the drug on this dollar bill. But you would have to actually read not just the article, but the entirety of the article, get to the very last paragraph to get to that point of it, which, as most of us in this industry know, That's not going to happen. That's not how people read their news stories these days. So it's not just these stories get passed around, but it's that reporters in some cases aren't really doing either their due diligence or just kind of taking people's words for it instead of doing a little extra research to see, could that really happen? Like, is that something that really would be possible? Because in this case, it's not.
Insane.
There you go. All right, what else? What else is going on?
So this is a positive story, and this is something that's going to be, let's see, by the time that this story actually, it's starting July 16th. So on July 16th, there's going to be a new emergency number that is available for all Americans. In the same way that 911 is a number that we can use for physical health emergencies, 988 is going to be the new national number for mental health emergencies. If you're having some sort of mental health crisis, if you're dealing with suicidal ideation, if you have a substance abuse issue, 988 will be the number that can put you in touch with mental health counselors who are in your area and who are connected to resources to help you. It's this is actually something that's been in the works for a while. It started a 2020 law called the National Suicide Hotline Designation Act. It's finally getting implemented starting here on the 16th, and it could end up being a pretty big deal. You know, there's numbers like this, but a lot of times it's not necessarily an easy to remember number like 911. So this has been something that they've been trying to implement nationwide for a long time, and people are pretty excited about removing that one more barrier for people who are having a real crisis.
That's great.
Yeah. I have a question. I'm not making light of this at all. I have a legitimate question. I've had friends and people close to me struggle with mental health and suicidal ideologies over the years. I mean, watching it up close, walking with them has been very sobering. I know when they're at their lowest, and not everybody's the same, obviously, but the people that I've been close to, they don't want to reach out for help. Mm-hmm. They want the opposite of that. They want to go away. They want it to end, right? And I don't mean to make light again, but do we think that is this going to be a useful tool? Because people that are at their lowest, that are at that moment, aren't going to be like, let me pick up my phone and call 998 to talk to a stranger. You know what I mean?
Maybe someone in their house will, though. Like if it was like one of my kids or my husband or something, then I could call.
That makes sense. Okay.
I'm fearful for someone's life right now.
Mm-hmm. Or someone who has a substance problem and has has taken too much of a substance or is in some sort of crisis state or acts
and they're freaking out.
Acts
so is this for that too? Because I thought it was more like just a suicide hotline. Is it for drug emergencies and things like that?
That is part of that is listed on the website as something else you can call about. So really, any sort of mental health crisis, emergency. Obviously, suicide is kind of the main one. And I think I said, and I should look this number up, but I believe they said something like 60% of the phone calls they get, suicide is part of the reason these people call, but it is not 100%. So even, if you're just dealing with depression, if you're having a panic attack, you're having some sort of anxiety, this is also a number you can call.
I wonder if this is also helpful, the way the conversations have been in the last year or two about helping the police force not have to deal so much with mental health issues because they're not equipped for that. That's not their job. And so this could be a helpful way to separate that and to provide, because I'm thinking like if there was someone in my house that was having an issue and I thought they were going to commit suicide, the only place I would call would be 911, and so then they're sending an officer out who's not trained to deal with that. So that's why I wonder if this is also to help ease some of the burden from the police force as well.
It's a really good point, and I think that's really true. Like, I think the last thing sometimes, and we've seen very sad stories of, somebody was just having a mental health episode that was very chaotic. A person who loved them and cared about them called 911, and then somebody ended up shot or even dead.
That just happened. I just read a story about that. Yeah,
it's pretty common, and it's very, very sad. And this would be maybe a way so you don't have to, because sometimes you don't need somebody with a gun involved. To show up with, like, you just need somebody who can talk to them, who has the training, the resources, the knowledge to walk somebody through a bad mental health episode. And police officers, they're good for a lot of things, and this isn't necessarily something that's part of their training.
Yeah,
I also think too, Cameron, like a lot of times, especially when we're dealing with our friends or family that might have mental episodes or episodes in this way, it's hard to talk to the people that are close to you because of the shame. But I wonder if there's a hotline where people can just talk freely, that they're probably maybe a little bit more open. So I think there's validity and value there for sure.
Yeah. No, it's something that I've observed, and I just wonder, like, at what moment is that person going to reach out, really, or is this more just like for show? But you guys have convinced me this is a valuable tool for sure. The drug thing is interesting. Jesse, do you remember that clip that I was watching when we were in Vegas? There was somebody called 911. This is a point why we need a different number.
Yeah.
Somebody called 911 and they played the recording, and the person, he and his girlfriend had overdosed on marijuana and they thought they were dying, and they were calling 911 because they were dying, and the lady was go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say the main symptom that I overheard from this was time is moving very slowly. Time is slowing down.
She was like, well, how much did you take? He's like, I don't know, but I think I'm dying. We're dying. And she goes, why do you think you're dying? He goes, time is moving very slowly. And she's like, sir, you're fine. Just go to sleep. You're fine. But like, don't call 911 for that, is what you're saying. Yeah.
And it is worth noting here that according to their own stats here, the suicide prevention hotline, which before it transitioned to this 988 number, in 2020, they received 2.4 million calls. And in a survey, about 80% of the people who called said the hotline did help prevent them from committing suicide.
That's amazing.
So you can do the math.
That's amazing.
That's a pretty big number. So it is it's a good thing. But obviously we know suicide continues to be a very, very big issue. It's the number 2 killer of young people in the U.S. So anything we can do to try to bring that number down is a good thing.
Absolutely. Got anything else?
One last little story, and then I'll let you guys go. This is a pretty brief one. I'm gonna get you guys inside the mindset of the Faith reporter, the Faith beat over at an outlet called Rolling Stone magazine. You guys heard of this magazine?
No.
Rolling Stone. Yeah, Rolling Stone. They're on the religion beat over there. They, sometimes we write about rock and roll music at Relevant Magazine. Sometimes they write about religion. It's okay. It's not a competition. There's plenty of news for everybody over there. And sometimes, would we get rock and roll news wrong if we tried to get into that? I suppose it's possible. I think we've done a pretty good job, but I suppose it could happen. But I want to just read. So Rolling Stone did this very long article that's pretty interesting, and it's kind of about some of the controversy around Roe v. Wade and whether or not there were some faith groups that maybe had too much sway over certain Supreme Court justices. It's an interesting story. You can go check it out at Rolling Stone magazine if you want to, and I think the story itself is pretty valid. But I want to highlight what they said prayer was, because this is real. They were talking about how evangelicals think about prayer and what prayer is. And I wanted to see if this would scan as prayer for you guys. This is from Rolling Stone. They said, prayer is a powerful communication tool in the evangelical tradition. The speaker literally assumes the mantle of the divine, and to disagree with an offered prayer is akin to sin. Is that how you guys would understand prayer in the evangelical tradition?
What does that mean?
I don't even know what that means.
So it's like they're saying when you pray, you turn into like God, and then
I don't know.
If someone disagrees with you, that just sounds like somebody's auntie at a Pentecostal church is saying, God told me to tell you. That don't really sound like prayer.
Yeah, because
I don't even get it. So
maybe they meant prophesying. That's what it was. They meant prophecy. I think they meant prophesying. That's what they meant. Maybe. It's like, but God is speaking through the prophet, and if you disagree, you're disagreeing with God. Maybe that's what they meant.
That sounds like Mormonism.
But even in evangelical tradition, that wouldn't be prophecy. Wouldn't be that big of it's like pretty rare. For an evangelical church. I don't know.
Yeah, you start prophesying in one of them white evangelical churches, boy, they gonna throw you out.
You will be out. Definitely has to leave.
You'll be like Will Smith and Fresh Prince, man. You'll be like,
dude, and it's clear this person did not grow up in an evangelical home and never heard at the dinner table. And I pray for the bad attitudes at this table that they would straighten up and get their behavior right, Lord. And while you know what I mean, like.
I'm wondering if it's a stream of like Catholic theology or something, where it's like, because they believe that when you're taking communion, it's actually the body. I'm wondering if I don't know. But that is just a bizarre interpretation of prayer.
I just have no idea where they'd even get that.
Like even a charismatic wouldn't say that. That's not even how you would define speaking in tongues or prophecy. There's nothing, and there's like, that's bizarre.
It's like
that's
who
what
was
I
their
wanna
source on this,
Right.
or his
They have an
source,
inside
the
source who's
writer.
just trying to mess the whole story up. Like they were acting as a false flag operation.
Oh, that would be hilarious. Hey, this is what prayer really is.
Right this. They don't want you to know this. I shouldn't even be telling you this, but I'll tell you. You seem like a good guy. So that's all. I just wanted to put Rolling Stone on blast. That's the end of it.
That's it. That was your entire agenda.
Yeah, I just wanted to warn them. I just wanted to warn them to stay in their lane.
Okay.
I won't write about Lenny Kravitz if they don't write about
Hey, we got Tyler Petty over here, boy.
Lenny Kravitz.
All right, that'll do it for Relevant Buzz. Make sure to check out relevantmagazine.com every day for all the latest. We are publishing stuff at the intersection of faith, culture, justice, and life all day, every day. Make sure you check it out and follow along on all the socials. Don't miss a thing. All right. Thanks, Tyler. Au revoir.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, stay tuned. Up next, Michael Cera and George Takei join us.
Son of God, doing what the sun say. Minimalist with the feng shui. Heart guarded, I'm like Harden with the pump fake. We ain't going back and forth, this is one way. Every golden road in heaven is a one way. Serve a big God, I'ma see him one day. Hey. Okay, great, that was one take, but your lyrics didn't give him hope, let alone fade. My relationship with the music, it be love, hate. They be wanting me to use it in the wrong way. I was happy in the Buick with the ball fade. Now I'm discontent with the life that I prayed for. That just goes to show achievement isn't what
You're listening to No Big Deal. The song is One Way. Well, today's show is also brought to you by World Vision. Women and girls in poverty face more obstacles simply because they're born female. But World Vision knows that when a girl's God-given potential is unleashed, extreme poverty doesn't stand a chance. Children are better cared for, families are stronger, and communities are more prosperous. With your help, a girl can grow stronger, be healthier, go to school, learn her value, marry when she wants to and who she wants to, and even start a business. To sponsor a girl, visit worldvision.org/stronggirl. That's worldvision.org/stronggirl. World Vision does amazing work in communities around the world. Love them. Well, our guest today, it's a double dip. We've got two guests. Michael Cera, who you know from Arrested Development, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and Superbad, and a lot of other stuff, joins us along with Star Trek's George Takei to talk to us about the importance of accepting others, why diversity is a strength, and their new movie, Paws of Fury. Here's our conversation with Michael Cera and George Takei.
Wow, I did not see that coming. We need a new samurai.
Not it. Okay, here goes nothing.
What the mother-father cocker spaniel's going on here?
Sometimes you need a friend.
Sounds like you need help.
Hi, Michael.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Do you remember when you first got the pitch for this movie? Do you remember what that was like? And was it kind of a hard sell for you? Do you feel like you got the idea right away? No.
Yeah, it wasn't a hard sell at all. I mean, they had me at Mel Brooks. Basically, I was ready to go. Yeah.
This might be kind of a stupid question, but I just, I've never done any sort of voice acting or anything like that. When you start recording, like doing the work, like, do you have character designs? Do you know what you're going to look like in this movie at all?
Yeah, normally you do. You see some early sketches of the character, as just a starting point for how to figure out, how to bring him to life. And then you just take it, piece by piece, and then slowly you're kind of at running speed with it, and you start building on what you've already done and just finding it as you go.
What were some of the, like when you were a kid, when you were growing up and there were like animated movies were first started becoming part of your like movies you were watching, what were some of the early ones that really like landed really hard for you? And do you think that's influenced the way that you do voice acting now?
Pixar movies, when Toy Story came out and all those movies, I was like just right in the right age for those. And they blew my mind, and, when I was a kid, it was like the early 90s and Disney was still putting out like classic 2D animation as well, like Aladdin and The Lion King. I remember seeing all those in the theater, and those made such a big impression. So I think it's really magical when you're a kid to go see something like that. And it takes you to another world, and there's nothing really like it.
You mentioned the the ethos of this movie. What do you think that, like, how would you sum up sort of if there is a message, as far as there is a message to this movie, what do you think it is, and why do you think it's maybe particularly relevant now in 2022?
Yeah, I think it's kind of an evergreen message, just acceptance and loving each other and not judging each other. Yeah, I think that'll always be relevant as long as there are human beings on the planet. We're always going to be differences, and that the differences don't have to separate us that much.
Yeah. It's weird that we do keep that message. It seems sort of evergreen because it seems like we have a hard time getting it right. Sometimes, I mean, it's an evergreen problem too. So I'm glad there are movies like this one to address that.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is like, it's not a heavy-handed message because it's actually just what the story is about. And I think that little kids, especially though, will really understand, what the movie is saying is just we should be friends.
I thought if I could be a samurai, it would change everything.
Sounds like you need a mentor.
Perhaps a once great samurai who has fallen on hard times and maybe could use some help himself. But where can I find one?
What? Get out of here! Who even made that?
It's you!
Don't believe everything you read.
Samurai Hank, you have to do something!
Hi, George. Thanks for talking to me.
Good to meet you.
Do you remember where you were when you first heard the pitch for this project and your initial reaction to it?
Yes, I do, as a matter of fact. And they began by mispronouncing my name, my surname, Takei. They gave the EI, the Germanic pronunciation, Takei. And I get that all the time.
Sure.
So I told them, there is a Japanese word that's pronounced that way, but it's not my surname. Takei in Japanese would be spelled Takai, and it means expensive. And immediately say, "Oh my goodness, I don't want to call my actors expensive." And I said, "Well, how it should truly be pronounced is Takei."
Obviously, a lot about this movie is learning to accept people despite their differences, to not put people into different boxes. I know that's been a huge part of something that you've been very passionate about over the course of your life. And I'm wondering if you really felt like that's something this movie delivers in a unique or interesting way for audiences in 2022.
Exactly that. I mean, first of all, what do you think of when you think of cats and dogs together? Hissing, barking, they don't get along.
Right.
They're legendary for that. But what this movie is about is cats accepting a timid dog who wants to be a samurai, and the result of it, they come together and they both benefit. Mm-hmm. The dog becomes what he wants to be, and the cat land is saved, and people live happily ever after. Infinite diversity and infinite combinations make for a better world.
Why do you think we need to keep hearing this message? Even now, we've heard this message many times. Why do we need to keep hearing it? And how can artists like yourself play a role in communicating that message to people?
Look at this world today. Turn on the TV and the breaking news or the newspaper and front page news. The world is turbulent. War is going on over there, fractured society right here. I mean, it's a turbulent world, and it takes wisdom to see this turbulence as something that we can resolve, rather than joining in and being at war with each other. Infinite diversity and infinite combination is a phrase from my Star Trek days. It's recognizing that we become better by recognizing diversity as an asset, working together in concert, in contributing our individual strengths and our wisdoms, and we can boldly go where we hadn't been before. That I really believe that that's true, and I'm delighted that with this movie, Paws of Fury, as hilarious and as funny and as entertaining as it can be, but at the same time, it has a good message.
When you come up on that lick, make sure you cut them in.
I gotta make this samurai thing work. Hey, this is the training montage, isn't it?
Sometimes you need a friend. Nope. When they see you win.
Don't forget to land on your feet.
That was Michael Cera and George Takei. If you're a Relevant Plus subscriber, you can see more of that interview over at the website. It's one of the subscriber exclusives that we drop in between the issues. So go check out a long-form conversation with Michael Cera and George Takei, Relevant Plus subscribers. And if you don't know about Relevant Plus, I'll tell you more about it at the end of the show. All right, stay tuned. Up next, it's your feedback. You're listening to Always. Is it always or always? It's Alvvays. It looks like always, but I'm wondering if you have to say it like German. Always. The song is Pharmacist. Okay, it's time for your feedback. Okay, so last week we got talking about summer travel, and Jamie brought the slice about people wearing socks to airplane bathrooms. Got us thinking about disgusting or weird things we've all observed while traveling. We asked you, what's the craziest thing you've ever witnessed on a plane or at the airport? You hit us up on Twitter at Relevant Podcast, and here is a few of our favorites.
Okay, Cindy says, I always pick a window seat whenever I fly because I like the view and having a wall to lean against. I relate, Cindy. I always opt for that if available. On one flight, the kid in the middle seat reached across me and closed the shade, and then later opened the shade and then closed it again. I'm on team kid here.
What?
Because I thought about this too. Why should the person who happens to be sitting by the window be the one that gets to control for the whole row? That seems like a lot
that's
of...
where they sit.
Especially but if there's a little kid wanting to look out and this is a big deal for them, let the kid have the view.
I say hands off the tray tables, right? It's my tray table. This is a community window, right? Like, I'm on team kid here, Cindy. I've thought about this too. And I got to say, not the craziest thing. Not, you know.
I don't like people reaching over me. That's right. It's too much of my space.
All right, let's see.
All right, Ben said this. Pre-takeoff, a woman started screaming bloody murder. Look back, she's crawling, scrambling over the tops of people's heads and seats, kicking their faces and shoulders to reach the bathroom door. Why? Her kid couldn't open the bathroom door and was panicking inside.
Okay, we got a reply from two of Relevant's own. Emily Brown, downtown, said... I was on an 11-hour plane ride once. 11 hours. That's a long plane ride. And before we had even taken or getting off the runway, a man on the row in front of me took off his shoes and socks. And he was on the aisle seat and he angled his body so his legs and feet would stick out. And basically she was staring at his bare feet the entire 11-hour plane ride.
So gross, you guys.
But here's the thing. If he was just wearing flip-flops, there's a non-story.
That's true, Jesse.
Okay? Again, I'm not trying to pick these apart. I'm just saying.
There's just something about someone taking off like all of their clothes, whether that be like their socks and shoes. It's like you do that when you're like in your home and you're about to go to bed. And so on an airplane, it feels weird. But if you had flip-flops on, that's cool. Like you walk around with
double
flip-flops.
Standard. Yeah. It's a double standard for flip-floppers. And I don't appreciate it. They get to walk around with their hobbit feet just kicking around all over town. No one can say anything, you know?
Guys, one time when we were flying an international flight, this is a long time ago. I feel really bad sharing this because this is a really bad thing that I did. But one of my kids got sick and he was young and he was so sick. I told him to look alive when we got on. This is way pre-COVID. I was like, look alive. They're not going to let us on this plane. We got to get home. We're flying home from Spain. Do not let them think you're sick. He threw up in the trash can right before we got on the plane. So I'm like, just look up, look alive, guys. So we get on the plane. He passes out, goes to sleep. When he wakes up, neither one of us realized he had urinated all over himself.
Ooh.
All over the seat, all over himself. He's young. I had to just get like with some paper from the bathrooms and clean that seat. And then we left. That means I left a pee seat on the plane and didn't tell anyone.
Here's the pro move. You order like another beverage from the stewardess, and as they're handing it to you, you bobble it. Whoa! You spill it everywhere, everywhere. And then you look at her in the eye or him in the eye, and you go, "That's your fault. That's on you. That is on you." And it's.
I still can't believe. Now, every time I get on a plane, I imagine that some parent has let their child do that in the seat I'm sitting in, and then I'm grossed out that I'm sitting in a.
That's why you do the drink trick, and no one ever knows that there's something.
That story reminds me. It was 10 years ago. I was on a flight, and the row in front of me, the baby had just an explosive diarrhea all over the seat, all over everything. And in the middle of the flight, they can't clean it, right? So in the middle of the flight, they literally came up and took the seat out. And took the seat to the back of the plane, like literally removed the entire seat. That's how they're going to deal with it, because they have to like.
Did they have extra seats on the plane?
They didn't bring one back. They just like took it off. They just literally like took the seat. And they're like, well, this one's dead. So
Story and I were on a plane last fall flying to New York, and we were in the row right behind first class, and the people right in that last row, it was a couple, and they had their dog, and their dog got sick, and that dog boo-booed all over that man. Not once, not twice, 3 times. He had to pull his whole suitcase down and go change clothes 3 times. And that sweet flight attendant was walking him down the aisle, spraying stuff, like acting like nothing was happening. And we were like, we cannot believe this. We got to New York. We knew where that dog was. This poor dog. There's something wrong with it. It was leaving a trail through the airport. Like they had a sick dog on the plane, and it smelled so bad. We always laugh about that dog and that man. That poor man changed his clothes 3 times.
Okay. You want a dog story? New York?
No.
Me and my kid. Cohen is 6 years old. We are going up to New York, just the 2 of us, to just have a weekend before school starts. Okay. And we go, and I booked this hotel in Brooklyn, a brand new modern hotel. I booked on Hotwire, so I knew the area. It was a 5-star hotel. Got a great deal on it. We check in. It's incredible. It's such a cool hotel. And we go, and my little kid, we just check in, we get into the room, and he jumps on the bed and goes under the covers. Like, kicks his shoes off, and he gets under the covers. And he goes, ew, what's that? And I pull the comforter back from the made bed that we just checked in, and his feet slid into a big old pile of poop that was in the made brand new bed.
No, sir.
And you're saying it was dog poop?
I don't know if it was dog poop or human poop.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's probably better not to know.
And I immediately alert the hotel. They, of course, do not believe me. They think that my kid stepped in it and tracked it in. I'm like, you can look at the hallway. There's no feet print, like that did not happen. They looked at security footage because they didn't believe me. They just didn't believe me. And I'm like, I'm not asking for anything other than just, can we move rooms, please? And they did move us, and they finally, begrudgingly gave us a comp visit to come back. And so we went back a couple years later.
Side note, Marriott in Dubuque, Iowa, you owe me a comp. I just thought about this. Because I went to Iowa and did a show at this. No, it's Hampton Inn. Hampton Inn in Dubuque, Iowa. You owe me a comp because I had a long day. I get to Dubuque, Iowa. I jump in my made up bed and I'm like, man, it smells pissy in here.
No.
And then I pull the sheet back, and I'm talking about from top of the mattress to the bottom of the mattress. It's pissy. So I go down there and I tell, hey, y'all gave me a pissy mattress. So they're like, oh yeah, well, when you check out, we're going to make sure that we give you some points or something like that. And I kept going down there. I'm like, something told me, the hustle in me was like, yo, you about to get finessed. You need to make them give you your points now. So then on the last day, I go down there and I talk to the lady. What's her name? Hold on. I'm going to tell you who this lady is. I got her in my notes app.
Let me get
Hold on. I got her in my notes app right now.
Jesse's going to call
Dubuque,
her.
Iowa, Hampton Inn. I'll put y'all on blast. Since y'all wouldn't give me my little comp, y'all thought I'm a celebrity. You know what I mean? So hold on.
You need to play that card with
Hold on 1 second. I am a celebrity.
Do you know who I am?
Do you know who I am? I'm on a podcast.
Why would they not? Why would they not give it to you?
Channing and Sherry, y'all need to call me and give me my comp because y'all said on the last day y'all was gonna give me some points or y'all was gonna comp the room and you didn't. I was tired and I was ready to go and I didn't fight for it. But Channing or Sherry or Michael, I remember Michael was the first person I called. I need all three of y'all hit us up. Somebody hit up the people in Dubuque and tell them I need my free room and matter of fact, I might talk about Dubuque every day on Relevant Magazine. That's what we do.
You want to go back to Dubuque?
No, but I want my points.
You can get points for anywhere else instead of
Give me points. Like, give me my little points because I'm definitely not going to come back to Pissyville, Hampton.
You did get a new room, right?
Stay there out of spite.
Oh yeah, I definitely got a new room. Okay. Yeah, I definitely had to get a new room. But I'm just saying, like, it's like, man, I hate when people lie because you could tell. Look, you know how you could look at somebody in the face and know they lying. Yeah. Like it's like when I asked the lady, I'm like, hey, so what y'all gonna do about this? And she said, when people start stuttering, that's when you know. I could tell you lying. Stutter. I could tell you lying. She was stuttering. I could tell she was lying. She wasn't finna give me no points. She lying.
They moved us to a corner suite with a wraparound balcony and stuff.
Yeah, they did.
It was unbelievable. I mean, it was a very expensive suite. And then when we checked out, they gave us another free weekend because they, in between, reviewed the security footage and did see that it wasn't us bringing the poop into the room. And they have no explanation for how poop got into a made bed. It was on top of the sheet, but below the comforter. So
I have an explanation.
Tell me.
One of their workers thought it'd be funny.
Yeah. That's the only theory that I think so too. Yeah.
Which I cannot understand how that's funny, but
yeah. Well, Cameron, there's no corner suites in the Hampton Inn in Dubuque, Iowa. So they just moved me two doors down
to not a busy bed
room overlooking the metropolis of Dubuque, Iowa.
Oh, goodness.
Overlooking another angle of the TJ Maxx.
Yes.
The Wawa parking lot.
The Wawa parking lot.
Cameron, you understand what you're describing is the plot of an episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
No?
Just trying to figure out what happened there. Yeah.
I mean, it was an episode of The Office. It was an episode of The Office of
No, but there's there's an episode of Always Sunny that's literally called Who Pooped the Bed. So maybe
I'll be honest with you, it looked like dog. Like it looked like a dog setup. So again, was there a little lap dog or was there a little purse dog that crawled under it? And I don't know what happened, man, but it was gross. My kid slid his feet through it. So,
or this happened, like you said, the people saying before had a little dog, and the dog got under there and did that. But when the people came to clean the room, the bed looked like it hadn't been slept in. So they're like, "Oh, we don't need to clean it."
That's my guess. That was my working theory.
I think that was probably more plausible.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, that'll do it for your feedback. There's a lot more where that came from. You guys have had a lot of traumatic travel experiences. I guess we all have. Okay, it's time for this week's
editorial question of the week.
Well, earlier in the show, we got talking about the very, very troubling Virginia state flag.
Provocative state flag.
I only had to go off your description for it because my accountability filter won't let me Google the Virginia state flag.
Yeah, it's pretty explicit.
So, guys, thinking about state flags. Hey, they're pointless, but what would you, if you were designing, here's the question of the week. If you were designing a state flag for your state to accurately represent it, what would you have on your state flag? And yes, I can hear the jokes for the Florida state flag already, but
Cameron, I would also like to publicly apologize to every person who lives in Dallas. I like you. I just don't want to live there.
Why? What is your issue with Dallas? Why? It's a lovely metropolitan area.
It is a lovely metropolitan area. I have lots of friends that live there.
Yeah.
I think there's just some stereotypes that I'm not going to bring up because they're stereotypes, and I just wanted to publicly apologize.
Well, what? Like what? I don't know them. What are the stereotypes?
Stuff that I don't believe that other people might say.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this. But Dallas people are snooty and better than everyone, and
Cowboys fans.
Here in Austin we're not maybe.
So basically, Austin is like the camp, the summer camp of just ragtag counselors and kids whose parents would drop off in the minivan. Dallas is the camp across the lake with all the preppy kids.
Yeah, they got the boats.
Take canoes over in the middle of the night and play pranks on the. Okay, I understand.
That's what I have heard. I do not feel that way about Dallas people.
I understand.
What do you think about Fort Worth?
It's funny. Fort Worth always gets left out, but it's like it's its own awesome place. And Fort Worth is up and coming and really has some cool stuff there. So I like Fort Worth. They're a little bit more like laid back, old kind of country, stockyard, stuff like that. Yeah.
All right. So if you had to design a state flag for your state to accurately represent it, what would you put on it? There you go. Hit us up on Twitter at Relevant Podcast, and we'll post this over on the Relevant IG account as well. Okay. Well, before we wrap things up today, I want to thank Michael Cera and George Takei for joining us. You can check out their new film, Paws of Fury. It is in theaters today. Look at us, opening day. Also, like I mentioned earlier, you can see read more of that interview exclusively at the website for Relevant Plus subscribers. If you haven't checked out Relevant Plus, you get access to tons of exclusive features, extra podcasts, ad-free content, and so much more. You can sign up for as little as $2.50 a month. You get an ad-free early release version of this podcast, as well as a subscriber exclusive one called the Relevant Plus Conversations. Also, you get an enhanced edition of Relevant Magazine. It's designed beautifully like our print magazine was. It's designed for a beautiful tablet desktop reading experience. You can find all the info at the website. And if you haven't seen our new summer issue, go check it out. We've got conversations with filmmaker Jon Favreau. We've got artists like James Vincent McMorrow and the Mountain Goats and so much more. The issue is out now. It is presented, the free version is presented by our friends at World Vision. We thank them for their support. Go support them. And like I said, the ad-free enhanced edition is available for Relevant Plus subscribers. Go check it out now. Also, while you're there, make sure to peruse all the great content that we publish every day. We cover the intersection of faith, life, and culture like no one else. We are publishing stuff all day, every day. It's make relevantmagazine.com part of your daily web browsing habits. Okay, on that note, we'll wrap things up. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Jesse Carey.
I'm Jamie Ivey.
I'm Derek Miner.
We'll see you next time. Have a good week, everyone.
For listening to the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
Virginia's for lovers.
Relevant Podcast Network.